Hello gang, it's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us, and I am coming to you straight from the laundry room. That is where I am. I'm in the place of laundry, where it gets cleaned. I was listening to the Story Brand podcast, and one of the recent episodes was with James Clear, who has written some books on habits. And so one of the things that stood out for me was a comment that Donald Miller made in the interview, which was he had, when he first wrote a book, he was doing a book signing and somebody's like, hey, listen, I'd love to talk to you about how to become a writer. And he's like, yeah, I would love to know about that too, right? And he wrote a book. So Donald Miller wrote a book. He was an author. Somebody came up to him and was like, yeah, I'd like to feel like I am a writer. I want to ask you more questions about becoming a writer. And Donald Miller didn't feel like in that moment, even though he had written a book, that he was a writer. So it's interesting, right? Because the statement he made was that your identity lags. That's how he said it. Your identity lags. And I just added into that, right? Your identity lags behind reality. The reality was that he actually was a writer. His identity hadn't caught up to that yet, and he did not feel like a writer. Okay. Enter the laundry room. I do not feel like a builder. I'm not a great project guy. I don't do great stuff with my hands. I'm not great at building things, right? And yet, so that is my identity. And it causes me to get frustrated at projects. It causes me to shy away from home projects because I get very frustrated in projects. This particular just weekend project with the laundry room had all sorts of things that went sideways that I had to fix and figure out and whatever. And it's just really frustrating because it doesn't come easy for me. And so my point is, like, the identity of not being a builder often stands in the way of me choosing to do some things. I have a ton of projects that are on my list to do for the house. Simply because I have a vision of what I want my house to look like, right? From my backyard to even just the paint on the house, all sorts of stuff, the garage, whatever, all that. And I drag my feet big time on those projects just because I have this story called I'm not great with my hands. I don't do great work with my hands. And so, yet the reality is that I, with my son, I painted this wall this weekend. It was yellow. And I added, we got some new appliances, and I added a shelf, right? And that shelf, if you can see, has 3 planks, right? There's 3 planks here. Here's one, here's a second, here's a third. We sanded them down, we glued them together, right? We built cleats underneath, little ledges for the counter to sit on. And I, in a matter of a weekend, redid this room. So the reality is that I can do work with my hands. That's the reality. The reality is I can. My identity is stuck back years ago in that I'm not a great builder. I don't build great things. But if you actually ask my wife, she's thrilled. And if as I got some space away from the project for a day or two, and now I come back into the room and I see it, I'm very inspired by this room. This room looks very clean to me. It looks very zen to me. So I'm proud of it now. But my identity of not being a builder, my identity of not feeling like I'm good with my hands really taints the way that I feel about the projects I take on. So what does any of this have to do with you? Well, what I've noticed is that people in marketing, most people in marketing are inconsistent. And they're inconsistent because they have an identity that is, I'm not good with words, I don't like video. They have a lot of stories connected to their identity about who they think they are as it relates to business and marketing. I've had people say, I'm not a leader. I've had people say, I'm not a marketer. I've had people say, I'm not great with marketing. I'm not great with words. I'm not great with money. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of identity that is preventing you from stepping into reality. In other words, you are most likely leading somebody, if not just yourself, because we all lead ourselves. You are probably leading your clients. There are people you lead, and yet you might have a story called an identity wrapped up in I'm not a leader. And yet the reality is that you are. You might say to yourself, I'm not a marketer, but you post on social media. You have a particular idea of what you think a marketer is. And that might be good or bad, frankly. Some people think that marketers, are slimy and bad, but that's just a character issue, not a marketing issue, right? So here is the deal. Just like my identity as not being a builder has taken me out of projects that would have been good to move things forward in my house, you may have had an identity that has kept you dragging your heels on things that would make your business better. And all there is to do is do the work. Your identity will catch up to you, but what there is to do in the meantime is just do the work. Don't let the identity that you have for yourself as quote unquote not a leader or not a marketer or not a business person. I don't have a business. I'm not a business person. Don't let that story or identity rob you of the work to do. How do you become a business person? You sell something for yourself, right? How do you become a marketer? You post something about what you sell. You post something that would lead a conversation in the world. What there is to do is the work. That's all there is to do. It's the work. And some of you are letting your identity or lack of identity or old identity rob you of doing the work. Just do the work. Just do the work. Forget the label, forget the identity, just do the work. And as you continue to do the work, you might look back, just like I am right here in this laundry room, and go, okay, I guess I can build something with my hands. I did redo this room this weekend. I did do it. And it looks okay. It could have been better. It's interesting that when your identity is I'm not good at this, all you could probably see are all the things you're doing wrong, like I was with this counter. And if you're in business or you're in marketing and you don't have the identity yet that you are a marketer or a business person or a leader, maybe all you're seeing are all the things you're doing wrong. And you can't be with the things that are going right. You're just so frustrated by the things going wrong because it's reinforcing the story and the label and the identity called you're not that. I'm not a builder. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a leader. That you can't see what you actually create. You can't see the good of what you're actually doing. So don't let your identity, your old identity, rob you of doing the important work now. Just do the work, And what will happen over time is the identity of you as a marketer, as a leader, as an author, as a builder, whatever it is, will at some point kick in. You'll be like, oh no, that's who I am. And things get easier when the identity kicks in, but you have to do the action. You have to do the work consistently over time so that you can start to build new evidence that that's who you actually are. And when you do that, things get easier when you turn the corner on embracing this new identity. Say, okay, this is who I am. And then what happens is you don't have to convince yourself anymore. You just take action in alignment with that's actually who you are. You actually just take on projects around the house now because that's who you are. You actually just do posts and videos because that's who you are. You actually just continue to lead people because you already know that's who you are. One of the key pieces to you stepping into a new identity is repetition. You have to continue to do the work. And it's hard to do that work on your own. It's why I created a 6-week program for those of you looking to take your marketing and your business to the next level. Doing marketing consistently over time helps you turn the corner on that identity that says, I'm not a leader and I'm not a marketer. You can lead and you can market in a way that leaves the world better than you found it, but you need repetition. That's why I built the 6-week program. If you'd like to learn more about that 6-week program, you can go to there's a free video for you at groundswellmethod.com. Groundswellmethod.com. The link is in the description here. You can go there, watch the free video. On the last page of the video, there's an application button. Click the apply button to apply for our next upcoming 6-week program called the Groundswell Method Intensive, where we actually go to work on you stepping into the next level of your marketing, and you graduate that program with your own show, your own podcast. That's how you graduate, okay? Thanks for hanging out with me here tonight. Here's to you embracing all the new identities that will come as you do the work. See you tomorrow.